You're in Canada, your spouse, your parents, or your children are still back home. And you're trying to figure out, how much money do I need to bring them here? What does the government actually require? And what will it cost? This video breaks down the financial requirements for sponsoring your spouse and your parents to Canada in 2026. Because the rules are more nuanced than most people realize, and getting them wrong costs you time, money, and heartbreak. Let's go. Before we get into the financial details, you need to understand that sponsoring your spouse and sponsoring your parents are two completely different programs with completely different financial rules. Spousal sponsorship is a straightforward path to permanent residence for your spouse or common law partner. Here's the fact that surprises almost everyone. In most cases, there is no minimum income requirement to sponsor your spouse to Canada. You just need to not be on social assistance, and you need to be able to sign a 3-year financial undertaking. Parent and grandparent sponsorship for permanent residence, the PGP program, is currently closed to new applications in 2026. The primary option for bringing parents to Canada right now is the Super Visa, which allows them to stay for up to 5 years at a time. In most cases, there is no minimum income requirement to sponsor a spouse in Canada. As long as you are not on social assistance, other than disability, and meet the other eligibility criteria, you can sponsor your spouse regardless of your income level. You do not need to prove a minimum bank balance. You do not need to show savings. You do not need to meet a LICO threshold. The income requirement only arises in very narrow circumstances, specifically when your sponsored spouse has a dependent child who has their own dependent children. Quebec is an exception. Quebec-based sponsors must confirm with MiFi before applying. When you sponsor your spouse, you sign a sponsorship undertaking, and this is a legal commitment. The undertaking lasts 3 years from the day your spouse lands in Canada as a permanent resident. During those 3 years, you are legally responsible for your spouse's basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare not covered by provincial insurance. Your responsibility continues even if your relationship ends. If you and your spouse separate 6 months after they arrive, you are still legally obligated under the undertaking for the remaining 2.5 years. If your spouse accesses social assistance during that period, the government can pursue you to repay it. Help your spouse build financial independence as quickly as possible after they land. The government fees for spousal sponsorship in 2026 add up to approximately $1,225. That includes the $75 sponsorship fee, the $490 principal applicant processing fee, the $575 right of permanent residence fee, and the $85 biometrics fee. On top of that, budget for the immigration medical exam at $200 to $400, document translation at $200 to $600, and optional immigration legal fees of $2,000 to $5,000. The realistic total cost to bring your spouse to Canada is $3,500 to $7,000. Outland processing currently averages 12 to 24 months. Inland processing averages 10 to 18 months. As of 2026, the Parents and Grandparents program is not open to new applications. The viable option right now is the Super Visa, a multiple entry visitor visa that allows your parents or grandparents to stay in Canada for up to 5 years at a time. There is a significant 2026 update. Starting March 31, 2026, IRCC changed the rules so hosts can qualify by meeting the LICO threshold in either of the 2 taxation years preceding the application date. This means if you had a difficult income year recently but earned well the year before, you can still qualify. This is a major improvement that makes the Super Visa accessible to many more PR families. The Super Visa requires you to prove your household income meets the LICO threshold. You count everyone in your household plus the parents you're sponsoring. A family of 3 sponsoring 1 parent is a family of 4, requiring approximately $52,056. Sponsoring 2 parents makes you a family of 5, requiring about $59,058. Your proof of income is your CRA notice of assessment. The 2026 flexibility rule means you can use your NOAA from either of the 2 previous tax years, so choose whichever shows higher income. A co-signer who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident can help you qualify if you don't meet LICO alone. And your parents must purchase at least $100,000 of Canadian medical insurance, valid for at least 1 year from entry. For your sponsored spouse arriving as a new permanent resident, get their SIN on day 1. Open their bank account using the newcomer programs from video 32. Apply for their provincial health card immediately. The 3-month waiting period starts from application. Get private health insurance to bridge the gap. Open their TFSA in month 1. File Form RC 151 for GST, HST credit. And in year 1, make sure they file their own tax return. For your parents arriving on a super visa, medical insurance must be active from day 1. They cannot work. They cannot access provincial health insurance or registered accounts. The $100,000 medical insurance is your family's financial protection for everything that happens while they're here. Here are the 5 most common financial mistakes with family sponsorship. First, believing spousal sponsorship needs minimum income. In most cases, there is no minimum dollar amount. Second, not knowing the PGP is closed. Apply for the super visa now. Third, not fully understanding the undertaking survives separation. Fourth, forgetting parents' medical insurance before they depart. It must be active from day 1. Fifth, paying sponsorship costs from your emergency fund. Start a dedicated savings account 12 to 18 months before you plan to apply. Here's the summary. Spousal sponsorship has no minimum income requirement in most cases. The restriction is no social assistance and a 3-year undertaking that survives even separation. The PGP is closed in 2026. The super visa is the viable path for parents. Super visa requires LICO income proof from your CRA NOAA and $100,000 medical insurance per parent. And starting March 31, 2026, hosts can use income from either of the 2 preceding tax years. Plan for these costs in advance. If this gave you clarity on bringing your family to Canada, hit like and subscribe to PR Wealth Lab. Comment below. Are you sponsoring your spouse, waiting for the PGP, or using the super visa?